Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and yeah, something really interesting just happened. You see, we have an old world reveal coming later this night at like 4 AM UK time or 3 AM, something around that time. And prior to that, Games Workshop have finally made the official Old World Facebook group live. And with that means a new logo. This is the one that you can see on screen right now, which is actually fairly interesting for a number of reasons. You see, Games Workshop have pretty much confirmed the start date here. If you go in between Gal Maraz and the skull at the very top, you'll see a number, 2276, which is 25 years before the Great War Against Chaos. So it's just 2 decades and a half, which means that that's the period that we're going to start in. We're going to get story building up from there, very similar to that of, say, for example, the Horus Heresy and how that's being handled. So yeah, this is pretty interesting. A few lore bits happen, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Other than that, what we can see, obviously, is a lot of weapons, returning weapons too. I do feel like we're going to see a lot more returning old school models, the Chaos Halberds there, for example, and, well, the 2 Chaos Halberds. One of them is for the Foot Troop, the other one is for the Old Knights. These are for the both old kits, which I wouldn't mind. My big hope is that we will see upgrade boxes that will allow us to dedicate. But yeah, I mean, weapons, really, really cool. With the whole thing of the Hippogriff and the Manticore, which basically means, you know, there's going to be a heavy Empire focus and a heavy Chaos focus in this edition, which, again, makes a lot of sense. This is the build-up for the Great War, which there's going to be a lot of Chaos-related stuff, and obviously the Empire is in a massive civil war at the moment. And not only that, but we've got some icons there, which are, I guess, going to be showcasing the main factions. It's interesting. Obviously, we've got that Bretonnian dukedom, which has been so widely publicized. We've got Lawfern, again, as per usual. Chaos Undivided. Again, this is going to be a very undivided style story, but I imagine that they might splinter bit by bit to be able to cover different bits of lore. It's really nice to see that Orc shield design back. I know a lot of people are now more associating that with the Cruel Boys, but it's classic. It's like from the 90s. Obviously, we've got the Beastmen down there, all 9 core factions. Again, I need to stress out here very importantly, because I know there's some people going to say something about Skaven and so on. They're getting rules, guys. This has been confirmed. I do wonder if the layout is going to be tied to how the releases are going, because we know Bretonnians and Tomb Kings are going to be the first thing, and they're very close to each other. Does that mean that they're just going to mirror, so we're going to see High Elves versus Chaos, or Dwarves versus Orcs, which obviously makes a lot of sense, and Widows versus Beastmen would be an incredible box, considering just how the lore works anyway, with the Empire standing alone in the middle, which, yeah, given how the Empire is story-wise at the moment, it does make a lot of sense to have them separated. If they get their own individualized box, that would be absolutely great too. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some lore regarding a little bit prior to the start and then a little bit after. Keep in mind that a lot of these things could, in theory, change as lore is going to be rewritten now to be a bit more comprehensive, as this new setting is there to kind of fix up a few issues. So we're going to use the Warhammer Fantasy fandom here, just because it's got everything laid out. We're going to talk about stuff from the turn of the century, because I feel like that's the most important stuff. From the beginning of this century, we obviously know that the Errantry Wars had already happened, where King Leon Orcslayer had gotten rid of the Orcs in Bretonnia. Oh well, just killed as many as possible. Not all of them are really, really gone there. Some people are wondering why Leon Orcslayer is still alive 76 years later. The fact of the matter is, and this is a quite important lore bit, when you drink from the Grail, it does actually make you stronger, and it does extend your life. There have been some rumors of some knights lasting for about 175 years, something like that. So very, very possible. The dwarfs and the goblins fight at the Battle of Black Falls. So again, we've got a lot of typical lore in general. We've got the fantasy trope of greenskins and dwarfs, right? And that's kind of expected. Noblar Purge, sad that we're not going to see that, but then again, makes sense. We've got just a few things here. The Knights of the Blazing Sun. They marched on Numas. There's been a lot of animosity at that point between humans and Tomb Kings, and this is also going to deal with, I guess, why the Tomb Kings are attacking Bretonnia, because the Empire and Bretonnia kind of work together in these things. One thing is that Morga the Shadowgave is destroyed at this point, which, yeah, it's a bit sad. I would have loved to relive that campaign. But considering that Morga dies a number of times, they could probably rewrite the lore anyway. Considering that his old model is pretty outdated, a new model for Morga the Shadowgave would actually sell quite heavily. So, yeah, I kind of expect that. And yeah, just after that, we've got another Beastmen invasion, which is the High Elves and Wood Elves joining up for that. I would really love a Wood Elf versus Beastmen box, especially with some new stuff for the Beastmen. It's about time that some of their models got updated. And then finally, right before the Great War, we had the Battle of the Vultures, which is a Chaos army leading an engagement into Camry, dealing with the Tomb Kings, and stealing some stuff. That kind of links up a little bit later to the War of Sand and Snow too, but it's not too big. It's really an area which, unless we get like a focused story point on Norska, we won't see that. But we're going to jump into the whole War of Sand and Snow and everything after, because there's a few things which we could potentially see as story points as we see the expansion of Warhammer the Old World story, possible future editions, and campaign books, which we know campaign books are a thing. This was confirmed way back in Warhammer Fest during the Q&A session. So this is some stuff that we could see on the build-up to the Great War Against Chaos, and this is actually kind of cool because I doubt all of it would be covered in the first edition. I don't think we're even going to get to the Great War on first edition. It'll have to be some time until we see that, but War of Sand and Snow, very much doubted unless we get like a Norska dedicated army book, which would be kind of interesting, mostly because, yeah, the way the tabletop did it, if you're just here from Total War, is everything was just kind of lumped in together, which is not ideal when you want to separate cultures and actually have like fully fledged armies dedicated. There's not really that many Norskan or just Marauder style troops. You never know. We do know new models are planned, so it would be kind of cool. 2297 is actually the thing that I'm really anticipating. Obviously, it's the whole Maldred of Musalon thing. It's a little bit of a rise again, the whole thing with the False Grail, which is the Black Grail to some people. It would be really cool to see Musalon-themed armies, kind of based on a little bit of a mixture of vampire counts and Bretonnian units. One thing that Warhammer Fantasy did very, very well, particularly around 6th edition, was the build-up of themed lists, which I imagine we will get. As again, that was hinted and outright confirmed, actually, I think, in the Warhammer Fest Q&A session, that they do want to do expansions. That was confirmed, but like themed listing around those expansions too. So, again, after that, in the same time frame, just a year later, we have the rise of Nurgle demons around there. So this is why I think this is going to be a while. I don't think that we're going to be jumping really far into the story. I think it's going to be something like maybe 5-6 years in first edition, and then another 5-6 years in second edition, if we're lucky enough to get multiple editions, which I imagine is going to be the case too, because I mean, Horus Heresy is doing fairly well as it stands, and there's a lot of hype when it comes to Old World, so I think that this is going to be similar. Plus, we know demons are getting rolls, it's just they're not getting anything new. I would love to see new stuff for the demons, and possibly big things around that would be really good. And actually, in just another 2 years afterwards, still in the Musalon section, is why I think we're going to get a second edition later down the line, because the Red Pox situation, that's actually a Skaven thing. So this would be after the Black Plague situation. This would be after all the big trouble that happened there. So it would be kind of cool to see Skaven come back. You know, at this point, we know that new models have been kind of hinted for Age of Sigmar, which will probably be backwards compatible. So yeah, perfect time after a range refresh for the Skavens come in, go for the second edition, bring in the Rat Boys that everyone loves. I mean, I've just been rebasing a bunch of clan rats, and I'm super happy. Then after that is the War of Vengeance, Age of Vengeance, sorry. That would be Malekith attacking Ulthuan, you know, the usual thing. This is important because if you're a Morathi fan like I am, if we get Morathi as a playable character there, and if they kind of boost her up, this is where we'll get the whole Cult of Slaanesh situation, which, big fan, you know. So hopefully we get to see that, and then afterwards is obviously the Great War. The Great War itself is going to last for a while because, I mean, it's a massive thing. It's the destruction of Kislev, it's the rise of Asavakul. Right now, this is why they had to go back. There's going to be, 4 Empire factions to kind of set the scene, and eventually everything gets united under Magnus the Pious. By this point, we will also have Kislev and Cathay, because a big part of the story for Asavakul, well, it's a small part, but it's a footnote that a lot of people are quite curious about. Obviously, we didn't have Cathay as a playable faction back then, is that he goes into Cathay to destroy a certain city prior to turning his attentions down to Kislev, beating Kislev all the way down. Remember, the country used to be much, much larger, and then going all the way up to Prague and so on. So yeah, this is kind of cool. This is going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see where we go. It's nice to be able to have more or less a date now, as now we can actually sit down and talk about stuff. Everything is subject to change. Everything is subject to change until we actually get the release and so on. But I am over the moon. This is really exciting. We'll be talking about the reveals later, as obviously there's a big reveal. It's been pretty much confirmed. It's Tomb Kings through the artwork that they've been posting on the 1 day to go, 2 days to go section. So yeah, I guess we just have to wait. Let me know what you guys think about the comments below. I know this isn't the most ideal setting for some people because a lot of people just wanted to go back to the 8th edition timeline, but yeah, I mean, I'm super hyped up. Great War is such a cool setting, and now we know more or less how long we're going to have to wait until the Great War. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon, and have a good day.